How you doing, Brandon?
Great. How are you guys?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us. Brandon, number one, we really appreciate your time in here today. We've got a good crowd. I have some thoughts on the common characteristics taken from rocket fuel as to what an integrator is. But what are your thoughts on what an integrator is?
Overall, the bigger concept is somebody who can take a visionary's concept and picture and vision of the future and be able to relay that to the team in more detail so that it's executable, right? And then oversee the execution of those ideas. So a lot of times what happens, visionaries have these great big picture ideas, moving a mile a minute, but the details are not there, right? So when they're saying it to certain people on your team, people just don't always grasp it, right? Because certain people are very detail oriented. Unless they know every single detail, they just can't see it. They can't picture it. So your people that are really detail oriented will not be able to understand how to execute on a broad vision, right? They need to know the steps, right? Some people can find their way and some people need to be told how to get there. Usually your people executing need to be told. And so the role of an integrator is to take that big picture vision and break it down into that plan that the executors can then go and implement throughout the organization.
Okay, tell us a little bit about you, Brandon, if we just back up here. Who are you? Where did you come from? How did you get to where you are now? Can you tell us that?
Sure. So grew up in a small town in PA on the Maryland border, went to University of Pittsburgh, studied econ and poli-sci. My dream was always to be a lawyer. I shadowed an attorney, my mentor, since I was 13. So I thought for sure I'd take over his firm one day. He actually advised me wisely to go out and do some stuff before going to law school, and just happened to find, after a role or two, I found a really great position at a custom suit business. Started in sales, and it was a startup, and we grew very quickly, and we got acquired by private equity. We grew it to, I think, around 35 million a year in revenue. And at that point, I was running a third of the country for the company. We were all very, very young. It was kind of like wild, wild west. And the private equity came in and put some structure, but unfortunately, he brought in some really big executives, which was great because I was right under the CEO. But they ran it like retail, right? So it just wasn't the right model. And we were direct sellers. And so unfortunately, it collapsed. I started my own company, had that for 4.5 years. And then I sold that to a much bigger company and started to work for them. And I was growing out the East Coast for them, as well as serving as their integrator. That was the first time I was introduced into EOS.
So hold on, let me stop you there. You were first an integrator for who? Who was that for?
It was a company called Belani Custom Clothiers. That was who I sold my company to.
Okay, got it. So when you sold your company, you stayed with them.
Correct.
And you had a role there.
Yeah, it was a part of the part of the package was, we'll buy out your book. You come here and work for us. We'll give you this role. I want you to open the whole East Coast, and then kind of run the business as the integrator as well.
So you went to work for this company then that you sold to on the East Coast, and that was really your first role as the integrator. Did they call you an integrator at that point, or did you know you were an integrator?
Yeah, he came up with some crazy titles, but we were running on EOS. We actually had an EOS implementer that we hired from EOS. So I was integrator within the, integrator is kind of like the internal role. Mm-hmm. Externally, you have different titles depending, like VP of operations, COO, whatever. But internally, I was the integrator.
So is that what you're doing for SMB Team now, making those big decisions?
Yeah, so I work directly with Bill and the exec team. There's 3 of us on the exec team, myself, Bill, and Andy. And, it's great because I get to work a little bit on strategy, and then I get to go in and problem solve with the team and figure out what's going on and, coach up our leadership team. Just work to basically get Bill's vision to reality.
Well, tell us about that a little bit, right? Like, so if you come in, is Bill a true visionary?
So what's crazy is, I think I told you yesterday, like, I'm actually visionary and integrator, it sounds like it would be great, which it can be. But if you don't understand who you are and your patterns, it can actually be a hindrance, right? Because there was a period, I had a business partner when I first started my company, and then he left and I had it myself. And when I was CEO, when he was there, and he was COO, and then when he left, I had to do both, right? It's kind of the reverse of what you normally go in the direction of. And because I was both, it was like, gas pedal is the visionary, brakes is the integrator, right? So I was kind of like, and if you think if you're pressing on both pedals of your car, what's happening, right? You're just kind of spinning your wheels. So once I learned through those assessment traits, really about myself and how I function, how I think, I was able to kind of put myself in one mindset or the other.
Mm-hmm.
But coming into working with Bill, he is extreme visionary. Like, I don't even look like a visionary compared to him, right? He's so far off the charts, which is really cool to see. And it's somebody who moves really, really quickly, right? It's how we've been able to grow so rapidly. I mean, we just did our finance meeting right before I came here, and it's just incredible reviewing the numbers that we've done even just this year. Like, we've already more than doubled this year.
Through a couple things, integrators, right? This is from Rocket Fuel. Run the day to day. They're a steady force, a voice of reason, clarity, communication, resolution, focus, accountability, team unity, well-managed projects, follow through, tiebreakers that keep things moving, no obstacles or barriers, prioritization, execution. That sound like every day for you, pretty much?
Yeah, that's pretty much sums it up.
There's some things with being an integrator, though, that can be tough, right? Like, you're the pessimist, you have to have discipline, hold people accountable. You're not the external person really getting all the credit for a lot of the work, right? So it can be somewhat thankless, is what the book goes on to talk about. Sometimes you can be considered negative by others. I guess if you're not appreciated or welcomed in that role, probably, right? I mean, maybe loneliness, having to say no a lot. Are those things, though, that you're just comfortable with? Like, because I feel like a lot of it is your personality, what you're good with, right? Like, holding people accountable. If that's no sweat for you, like, my wife is a great integrator, and sometimes we have a hard time understanding each other.
Mm-hmm.
But for her, it's very simple, right? Because it's just easy for her. So the book really actually helped me on a personal level understand how my wife and I, visionary integrator, work really well together. What about you? Do these things come natural to you?
I would say most of them. I do think you have to have a lot of it. It's, again, I know I reference back to the assessments a lot, but it really is important. So, like, they said, like, my predictive index is kind of like the ideal integrator. And so, it's really important to have at least a majority of those traits, because from my experience, it's very hard to train people up on things that they're just not natural at. I know, like, everyone always says, like, oh, make your weaknesses a skill set. I don't know that that's even true, right? Sometimes you can improve some skills, but a lot of times it's just about knowing your weaknesses, managing them, being aware of them, and then have people supplement, right?
I'm going to open it up to everyone else here to ask a few questions if they have them. We got some questions in the chat too. But before I do that, can you just tell everyone, how is SMB Team helping law firms or lawyers?
Sure, thanks. Yeah, so we, our goal is to just help grow. We want to double 10,000 law firms, right? So that's our aspiration is to 2x or more every law firm we can. And so we started as a digital marketing company, mainly in just PPC, quickly realized that all of our clients wanted us to go full service.
Okay.
And then in the pandemic, we launched coaching to help guide through PPP and all the different stuff there. And that became a significant chunk of our business. So now we have, coaching platforms which help on the management side. So, actually, let's talk about the marketing first. We help on the marketing side, and then we help you to bring those leads in. And then it's like, okay, well, what do you do when you have all the leads? So we have a management track that also tells you how to scale your business, how to grow, how to hire, how to recruit, how to, hold meetings and delegate and set priorities and do the finances. And then, to assist, we also have the marketing. So we'll actually do the website, we'll do your SEO, we'll do the PPC and help you scale. And so it's great because, we're moving it actually to have one point person that cover both sides. So it's a very comprehensive approach where we understand all of your goals and aspirations, and we can work together to make sure it happens. And so, it's been quite the journey, and we love what we do. Yeah,
it's great. For those in the room, I just want to let you know that at HKK Law Offices, we made a commitment for 1 year to work with SMB. They're going to provide some coaching to us, which is wonderful. And we're super excited for that. Making that commitment to do that, we think it's going to elevate the service that we can bring to our clients in our community. So we're really excited about working with you guys here for the next year. So some questions here in the chat, Brandon. I mean, really, one of them is, how do you know when you need an integrator? Did everyone consider going out and finding an integrator? What do we do with this information?
It's one of those questions we get a lot, right? A lot of the law firms ask. And it's tough because unless you have a lot of money to start out, and if you're just a solopreneur starting out, you're not going to be able to pay somebody to be that integrator right away necessarily. And, certainly in the beginning, a little less detail is okay. Screwing up, failing, as long as you're doing it quickly and not catastrophically, it's okay. The biggest thing is moving forward, sales and marketing, right? Sales and marketing are the first step for every business. Then you can refine product, then you can refine process. But a lot of times companies do, I think, bring in process too late. At least, a couple years into a business, you got at that point, if you're, or, revenue wise, if you're doing over $1 million, I mean, you really need to start looking at that because there's definitely a point where you'll feel the break. I always say it's like a gut feeling, like you'll feel the break point, right? Where it's like, maybe you're wearing all the hats in the beginning. And at the point where you start thinking like, oh, is this even worth it anymore? Or I'm spinning out of control. I feel like I can never make any progress. When you get to that point, that's when you definitely need someone in. A lot of times, unfortunately, you can't see ahead to know or, anticipate it well in advance. So usually CEOs are flying, everything's great. And all of a sudden they're just like, feel like they're spinning.
So
that's
yeah,
the
I mean, and the book talks about it, some that you hit on, the 4 readiness factors: financial readiness, psychological readiness. So you're ready to let go of some control. Have you seen that? Have you seen Visionaries and Integrators?
Oh yeah.
Work out?
The role in between the one that I sold to and here, I took a role that I thought was going to be an amazing deal. I signed a great deal there, but quickly learned it was not going to work out. Everything I was doing was getting undone, and she was not letting go of the vine, as they say in the book. Whether or not you're the visionary hiring or the integrator interviewing, you really got to have a lot of conversations. Like, this is a really important role together as a relationship for any business. So it's important you really, like Bill and I met, I came in, we had a couple hour conversation. We had some Zoom calls after that. Like, I would even recommend going out, having a drink, having coffee, getting dinner together, whatever it is, right? Like, the more time you can spend really vetting the relationship side of it, that you guys can get along and that person's ready to let go, or if you're the CEO, that you're ready to let go and you trust this person,
right?
Where
in an organization then does a visionary and integrator fit? Can you describe that a little bit?
Yeah, so if you look at it from an accountability chart, like coming down, like visionaries at the top, right? Integrators right underneath visionary, and then usually leadership teams under the integrator, and then all their departments and whatnot. So the integrator is definitely the one that runs the business. That's the one that'll keep the order, keep the process, accountability.
Stephanie's wondering if you have any recommendations for resources to help someone become a more effective integrator.
They're, definitely understand just what it is from some of these books like Rocket Fuel and Traction and whatnot. There are also a couple companies out there that I think do some integrator training. I'm blanking. I can see the guy's face on LinkedIn, but I can't remember what the company is called. But there are some integrator trainings out there for sure. Cameron, our coach, has an Invest in Your Leaders course. It's like a $700. You get different modules. You go in, and it talks about situational leadership and problem solving. It's a really good course that just gives a good overall training that I actually recommend for any leader. But it's great. The situational one's really, really good for integrators.
Brandon's got to get going here. Anyone else have any other questions? I know there's a few in the chat. Just one visionary, one integrator. Can you have 2 visionaries, 2 integrators? Is there any thoughts on that?
You can only have one overall integrator and one overall visionary for the entire company. What I have actually seen though is within departments, you kind of have people that mimic that, right? So like in a marketing department, your CMO is going to be the visionary of that department. And you usually have like a director of marketing or something else who kind of acts like the integrator, right? And so we were seeing in our department and our services and our marketing, if you really look at their trait sets and everything else, it lines up the exact same way, right? So you do kind of have like department integrators and visionaries, but you wouldn't want overall multiple, right? It has to be one person for each. I wish I could stay, but yeah, would hope to be back soon or at some point in the future. So
We'd love to have you back. That'd be awesome. All right. Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate
thanks,
it.
everyone.
We'll see you again.